Let us pray. Father Yahuwah, we thank Thee again for Thy loving kindness and Thy truth. Thank Thee for allowing us to remember this Thy feast, the Day of Atonement. Allow us to come before Thee and receive of Thee Thy living word, that we may take of it and obey it, keep it, follow it, Father. Teach us Thy way through the passage that we are about to read. Grant us, Father, growth and spiritual maturity, that we may bear much fruit in our existence. In Yahushua's name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Today is the 10th day of seventh lunation, Day of Atonement. 2 days ago, we were out of town, so we couldn't study the Proverbs chapter 5 for the Sabbath day study. So we're gonna read Proverbs chapter 5 and study what Yahushua's Spirit has to teach us. Proverbs chapter 5. My son, attend unto my wisdom, and bow thine ear to my understanding.
That thou mayest regard discretion, and that thy lips may keep knowledge.
For the lips of a strange woman drop as an honeycomb, and her mouth is smoother than oil.
But her end is bitter as wormwood, sharp as a two-edged sword.
Her feet go down to death, her steps take hold on hell.
Lest thou shouldest ponder the path of life, her ways are movable, that thou canst not know them.
Proverbs chapter 5 verse 7. Hear me now, therefore, O ye children, and depart not from the words of my mouth.
Remove thy way far from her, and come not nigh the door of her house.
Lest thou give thine honor unto others, and thy years unto the cruel.
Lest strangers be filled with thy wealth, and thy laborers be in the house of a stranger.
And thou mourn at the last, when thy flesh and thy body are consumed.
And say, how have I hated instruction, and my heart despised reproof.
Proverbs chapter 5 verse 13. And have not obeyed the voice of my teachers, nor inclined mine ear to them that instructed me.
I was almost in all evil in the midst of the congregation and assembly.
Drink waters out of thine own cistern, and running waters out of thine own well.
Let thy fountains be dispersed abroad, and rivers of waters in the streets.
Let them be only thine own, and not strangers with thee.
Let thy fountain be blessed, and rejoice with the wife of thy youth.
Proverbs chapter 5 verse 19. Let her be as the loving hind and pleasant wool. Let her breast satisfy thee at all times, and be thou ravished always with her love.
And why wilt thou, my son, be ravished with a strange woman, and embrace the bosom of a stranger?
For the ways of man are before the eyes of Yahuwah, and he pondereth all his goings.
22. His own iniquities shall take the wicked himself. He shall be holden with the cords of his sins.
He shall die without instruction, and in the greatness of his folly he shall go astray.
Proverbs chapter 5 verse 1. My son, attend unto my wisdom, and bow thine ear to my understanding. One of the greatest misunderstanding of the Bible on the part of the people who read the Bible is that they think the Bible is a message given to all the people of this world. It's not. Bible is not a message to the people who disobey it. Bible is message written only to those who obey its commandment. Now you might wonder who obeys the word of Yahuwah written in Bible. That I cannot tell. No human being can predetermine or foretell, speak who's gonna be the one who's gonna be the one who's gonna choose to obey. I mean, this is like almost sounding like circular reasoning, but we do know that Bible's message is directed to Yahuwah's children. It tells you from the beginning, my son, attend unto my wisdom and bow thine ear to my understanding. It's very clear cut. Proverbs is obviously speaking to the son of the person who's rendering this message. Of course, it's coming from the wisdom of Yahuwah himself, and it is very easy for people to assume that they are the audience, and that assumption must be verified. Now, please do not go and condemn anyone that you're not my son being referred in Proverbs chapter 5. You don't know that for sure. But you have to verify it, whether you are indeed Yahuwah's son or daughter, in this case, or not. How do you know if you are indeed Yahuwah's child? Well, the text talks about it, verse 2. That thou mayest regard discretion, and that thy lips may keep knowledge. How do you know if a person is a child of Yahuwah? Well, he or she may say that I'm a Christian, or I'm a Jew, or whatever. But the pudding is the proof. The evidence has to be verified. See if that person regard discretion. See if that person's lips keep knowledge. And you have to study what is the discretion. What is the knowledge that is being spoken in this verse here? Well, that's what we're going to find out. But even if you don't know what the discretion and the knowledge is, you could know if the person does not regard discretion, nor keep the knowledge in his lips, then he cannot be son of Yahuwah. Yahushua demonstrated this. Jesus Christ, Jesus of Nazareth, demonstrated this. He sought after discretion. Certain times he will say certain things to people, and other times he said nothing. You go and study the night of his capture, night before the Passover. He was captured by thugs, and he was taken to 3 different places. The courtroom of Annas, the high priest of that year, and courtroom of Caiaphas, the high priest of that year. You do know there should be only one high priest. The fact that there were 2 high priests, and they were related because of the marriage. Annas was father-in-law of Caiaphas. That should be the first clue. Anyone who studies the Bible, wait a minute, something's wrong. They have perverted the office of high priesthood to the point they make joke about it. They are making mockery at it by having 2 consecutive or coexisting or co-high priest. And of course the reason being is because of the political wrangling. And then after the break of the day, he was taken to the courtroom of Pontius Pilate. And you understand, at least you will understand if you know what discretion is being taught. Yahushua sometimes answered the questions, at other times he kept his peace. He said nothing. That's an illustration of what discretion is. people of this world have no discretion. They are like drunken fools. That's why they are controlled and manipulated and brainwashed by mass confusion, also known as mass media or advertisement program or corporate greed, whatever you want to call it. The ways of this world is very, very apparent for those who have discretion. Now, if you don't have a discretion, then you don't know what's going on, because you are in the midst of this flowing river where it washes away all dead things, and you are one of the dead things being taken down. The trends and fads are the illustration. Most people don't know that they are in the midst of the trend, voluntarily participating in it, supporting it, giving its own life. I'll just give you a few illustrations. A few years ago, there was this fad. I guess it was longer than a few years, maybe about a decade ago, that all these children had to have a backpack with a wheel. They don't know why that's the case, but they just knew they had to participate. Now I ask you, how many children do you know having a backpack with the wheels now? About the same time, they also had to have shoes with the wheel, right? And we're not talking about the roller skate. It's a regular shoe, but in the back of it, there's a tiny wheel there, right? I think they called it Heelys. And everybody was clamoring, fighting to get a pair of those. Few years before, there was a craze with the beanie bags. Beanie... What do you call it?
Beanie Babies.
Yeah, beanie babies. All these tiny stuffed toilet, right? Toys. Not toilet. Toys, I'm sorry. Toys. Right? Beanie bags. And years before it was Cabbage Patch Kids. Years before was something else. I'm just using it as a children's toys as an illustration. But it's all the same. Men's ties get wider and narrower. The collars get longer and shorter. Nowadays, the craziest trend or fashion fad is ladies wearing a short sleeve with the shoulders cut out. So they have an armpit covered but shoulders exposed. I think it looks hideous. But never mind. That's the latest thing. To me, that looks like somebody who have a bad garment there, The pieces of clothing was cut wrong. But never mind. That's the latest thing. And quite some time, ladies been wearing, woman clothing, been wearing these skin-tight yoga pants. And they are not doing yoga, obviously. They are strutting along the public spaces wearing something that they should be really ashamed of, exposing their body. But that's the fad. Those are the illustrations of people who have no discretion. Now, these are superficial, physical things that you could see. There are things that it takes a little bit more work, effort, but just as real. The fads, when the real estate prices are rising throughout the entire nation, but maybe in some local geographical location, it feeds on itself. Prices going higher, that's why people buy more and sell less, so price go even higher. So people are more eager to buy because they are assuming that, if I buy this for $200,000, next year it'll be $250,000 or whatever. So I don't care if I make effort to pay down the debt. As long as I could just hold it with the interest payment, when it comes to time to sell, I'll be wealthier. They don't care about the price going up. So what do? They will rent out $500,000 home for less than the price of interest payment to the tenants. They don't care. The logical mind will ask, wait a minute, this rent ratio doesn't make any sense. You're paying more to the bank to borrow the money to buy this house than what you could get by renting it out to the tenant. Why would you do that? You're losing money every month. But the homeowner doesn't care. So people end up with 3, 4, 5, 6 or more houses. Because what they are betting is that, oh, I paid $500,000. Actually, they didn't. They borrowed 95% of it from mortgage, which is also what fuels this crazy explosion in price. But, I hold on to it for 5, 6 years, and then I'll be able to sell it for $1 million. And if I have 10 of them, I'll be a 10 millionaire. That's the mindset. Oh yeah, things like that happen. So that's a fad. And soon enough, the fad collapses. The trend collapses. And real estate price bubble, what they call the bubble, burst. And it begins to come down. It doesn't have to come down that much. Because of the leverage, even if it comes down, let's say 5%, they are wiped out. They lose everything. If it comes down 10%, they'll have to put in twice as much as what they have put in. They're going to have to pay the money to sell. Now, if they pay cash, so what if it comes down 10%? Even if it comes down 50%, as long as I live in the house, it's no skin on my nose. You understand? But since people don't pay cash, they borrow money against Yahuwah's principle. Even if it comes down a little bit, they get wiped out. So that's another fad. So it goes cyclical, up and down, overbought, oversold, overbought, oversold. These are all examples of lack of discretion. Person who has true discretion shouldn't behave like this. It's like a bunch of people gathering together and wondering why they are bored. They keep asking questions. Hey, what do you want to do? I don't know. What do you want to do? I don't know, man. Hey, what do you want to do? I'm bored. Let's do something. Yeah, good idea. So what should we do? I don't know. Keep passing the buck. Evidence of lack of discretion. And it's also the opposite side of the coin is lack of knowledge. Foolishness. Now the sad part of all this is people of this world, because they live amongst the people, amongst themselves, they cannot tell that they don't have a discretion and that they don't have knowledge. Because compared to other people, they think they have a discretion. They know what's going on. Hey, I'm aware of what's the latest coming out from Hollywood. I keep up with the Joneses. Keeping up with the latest fashion. Latest fad. I know what's going on. That's their version of discretion and knowledge. So they are busy picking up pennies, right, in front of steamroller. They see the pennies, but they miss the steamroller that's about to crush them. They see the trees, but they cannot see the forest. Myopic, nearsightedness. And that's who the strange woman is. Verse 3, for the lips of a strange woman drop as an honeycomb, and her mouth is smoother than oil. If it was obviously bitter and rough, people will notice it. But the lack of discretion and ignorance come as opposite. It comes to them as knowledge. It comes to them as wisdom. But her end is bitter as a wormwood, sharp as a two-edged sword. Wormwood is the very same thing that Yahuwah has given to the people who believe in themselves. Who they are their own God. Book of Jeremiah talks about that. Her feet go down to death. Her steps take hold on hell. Another thing that worldly people, so-called Christians and religious people, get it incorrectly is that these sinners gonna be resurrected in the time of judgment. Yes, Bible talks about that. But that resurrection is not what you think. The people who are condemned in their sin because they have chosen the pathway of iniquity is gonna be brought back out from the ground where they are buried. But they're not going to be living beings. They're going to be just scattering, covering the face of the earth like dung. Bible calls that concept shameful resurrection. So you are risen, but you're still dead. Do you understand what I'm trying to tell you? Now, people have taken that out of context thinking that, oh yeah, even every dead being is going to be resurrected means they automatically assume the resurrection means being risen to life. No, resurrection literally just means something was buried, something was laid to rest, and you stand it back up. That's all it means. You must be resurrected unto life in order to live. If you are risen out from the dead, okay, and you still remain dead, you are still resurrected, you're taken back out. Does that make sense? But you don't have life. So the strange woman take hold on hell, and her feet, her activity, go toward death. There is no life. Lest thou shouldest ponder the path of life, her ways are movable, that thou canst not know them. This is why verse 6 comes in heel of verse 5. If you don't have a path of life in you, you're not going to be able to tell one way or another what's going on with the strange woman. Because you too are what? You too are already dead. Her feet go down to death, her steps take hold on hell. In hell and death, there is no knowledge, there is no wisdom, there is no discretion. Dead know not what they do. Do you understand that? When you're dead, you have no knowledge. You cannot understand, you cannot distinguish, you cannot comprehend anything when you are dead. So people sometimes misunderstand verse 6, thinking that ways of strange woman is unknowable. Well, if you're dead, it's unknowable. But if you take hold, look at it very carefully. If you ponder the path of life, then her ways are knowable. Do you understand? That's what verse 6 is telling you. Look at it very carefully. Lest thou shouldest ponder the path of life, her ways are movable, that thou canst not know them. That means if you do not ponder the path of life, you cannot know the pathway of this strange woman. Ways of this world is unknowable to people who are in the ways of this world. But if you are pondering the path of life, then you must be able to tell them apart. That's why verse 7 goes, Hear me now therefore, O ye children, and depart not from words of my mouth. Otherwise, you're not going to know the pathway of this world, because you're going to be in it. Remove thy way far from her, the strange woman, which does not regard discretion, neither her lips keep knowledge. Remove thy ways far from the strange woman, and come not nigh the door of her house, lest thou give thine honor unto others. If you don't do this, If you do not remove your way far from her, and you stay the heck away from the door of her house, then what's going to happen? You're going to give your honor unto others, and your years unto the cruel. We talked about honor a little bit. Honor is to search out a matter. This is the same word that the 5th commandment of 10 commandments. Honor thy parents. Honor thy father and mother, so that you may live long. That honor. You're not going to have that honor. No wonder ways of this world, people of this world, they can't wait to go their own ways. Sever themselves from parents to children and children to their children. They don't have honor anymore. But they have honor to give to some other. So instead of parents and children and children and children, grandchildren, etc. living together, they live amongst corporations. They give their honor to government. They give their honor to the educational system. They give honor to the financial system. They give their honor to banking system, etc., etc. So they give honor to others. And the years unto cruel. They may work 9 to 5, 40 hours a week, day in and day out. But all their efforts are wasted because of their debt. They are enslaved by their covetousness. Verse 10. Lest strangers be filled with thy wealth, and thy labors be in the house of a stranger. If you do not remove your way far from her, the strange woman, and you do not stay away from her house, this is what's going to happen. Strangers be filled with thy wealth. Your wealth is going to go to somebody else. And your labors be in the house of a stranger. Pyramid building. This is why people secretly give sign of pyramid. These Illuminatis and these secret society, that's their symbol. Or upside down pyramid sometimes. Or downside up. It doesn't matter. Pyramid is their symbol, secret symbol. They wanted to climb to the top while oppressing all the rest. But you can't really blame them because the bottom ones are doing the same thing. There's no honor among thieves. They don't care. It's better you dead than me dead. That's their attitude. So what happens if you do not remove your way far from her? Verse 11. And thou mourn at the rest, when thy flesh and thy body are consumed.
Mourn at the last.
I'm sorry. And thou mourn at the last, when thy flesh and thy body are consumed. This is a lot of every physical being. It's not just a human being. Every physical thing. It wears out. Eventually there comes a time when your flesh and your body are consumed. Notice the distinction between flesh and body. They are not the same. But oftentimes people think the body is flesh. Flesh is a carnal nature. It's a desire or lust of yourself trying to do what comes naturally to you, what you like. It's a desire to do what you like and desire to shy away from, turn away from what you don't like. That's a carnal nature, flesh. Body is just a physical vessel that contains that carnal nature. And they both gonna be consumed. They both are going to be worn out. Thy flesh and thy body are consumed. Verse 12, and say, how have I hated instruction? I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear this idea of repenting, forsaking wickedness, confessing and forsaking the wickedness. I don't want to do that because the wickedness is defined by what I choose to do. Everything that I like doing, Bible says that's wickedness. Do you understand that? Everything. Because there's nothing in your brain that you have chosen to do that is independent of ways of this world. Nothing. You wouldn't even have a name to call yourself if it wasn't for the ways of this world. Think about it. Anything and everything that you prefer to do or prefer not to do, where does it come from? Where? It comes from this world. I'll give you an illustration. Listen to this very carefully. You have to verify these. If you were born in Mongolia 1,000 years ago, would you have a desire to study about computer? Yes or no? There was no computer. There was no school. If you're born as a boy in Mongolia 1,000 years ago, your lot in life is to tend goats and sheep and ride those tiny horses, Mongolian horses. That was your lot. So guess what Mongolian boys desire to do? That's it. That's what they desire. Because that's what was given to them from ways of this world. When I was about 15 and a change, turning to 16, I couldn't wait to get my hands on driver's license. This is what, 35 years ago? Because back then, we didn't have internet. We didn't have a smartphone. We didn't have a computer. I mean, there was a computer, but it was like more expensive than car. So young boys, that was a rite of passage, working on cars and buying cars. I didn't have a means to buy my own car. But after I got my license in 16, I was a designated driver for my entire family. Grandma and grandpa and Aunt Eri. Right? So I drove family car. Nowadays, fast forward 35 years, in the next generation, the young boys, 15, 16, it's not just you. They don't care about mechanical stuff. Cars and motorcycles, it doesn't interest them that much. Why? Because they are given different things to focus their mind. People think that they are choosing their own way. It's their dream. Nonsense. It's a lie of the devil. You are just repeating what you are shown. And you think it's your original intent. No such thing. If you're never exposed, Rachel, Hannah, if you're never exposed to manga, if you're never, well, it will be difficult to imagine not being exposed in your time. But this is why I tell you, if you're born in Joseon Dynasty during Daejanggeum time, you think you'll be interested in being a manga artist? No way, because there was no such thing. People are influenced by this world as much as they try to influence it. That's why it's called pyramid. You are part of it, whether you like it or not. So people complain, everything that I like doing, Yahuwah calls it sin. Bible calls it sin. But that's not true. What Yahuwah has built in, He doesn't call it sin. For example, you have a natural desire, physical desire to eat things, healthy things, tasty things. You understand? That's not sin. Because that's part of Yahuwah's original design. What it becomes, the time it becomes sin is you becoming picky. Oh, I like ice cream, but I don't like green herbs. Where does that come from? They say, oh, that comes from me. No, it doesn't. It comes from your upbringing. If you're in middle of Africa 100 years ago, you would not miss ice cream. You understand that? Your definition of this flavorful, savory dish is what? The animals that you hunt, right? Or fruits you gather. Do you understand? So hunger, physical hunger I'm talking about, in and of itself is not a sinful thing. But people don't hunger for just eating stuff, right? They hunger with a particular choice. Now that comes from ways of this world. This is why they hate instruction, Yahuwah's instruction, and heart despise his correction, reproof. Verse 13, and have not obeyed the voice of my teachers, multiple of teachers. The Bible contains many, many people. They all try to teach. Nor inclined mine ear to them that instructed me. I was almost in all evil in the midst of the congregation and assembly. Now, this is only applicable to son, S-O-N, prodigal son. For the outsiders, it's not almost in all evil in the midst. Because first of all, you're not in the midst of congregation and assembly. You're on your own. And number two, it's not going to be almost, it'll be definitely all the way. All those people who rejected and made fun of Noah, they went all the way to destruction. It's not almost. You know who's going to be qualified to say this statement from the Bible? Like some Lot. Lot was almost in all evil in the midst of congregation and assembly. But he got saved. He pulled out. He realized he made a mistake. Again, because Lot is my son, pertaining to Yahuwah's perspective. Not everybody gets to be almost in trouble. Verse 15. Drink waters out of thine own cistern, and running waters out of thine own well. But people of this world do not want to do this. They don't want to drink water out of their own cistern. This is why family churches don't exist. Gathering like this. No, they like to belong to the bigger churches, bigger groups, where they get better benefits. Fancier settings. Send their children to Bible classes. They have their different categories of meetings, groups, men gathering among men, women gathering among women, right? Different age groups with the different preferences, what they like to do, etc., etc. They don't want to drink water out of their own cistern. Yahushua said it, if you listen to what I tell you, I'm going to make your belly river full, gushing out. They don't want that. They want to go to famous pastors and hear their sermons instead of reading the Bible. Verse 16 continues, let thy fountains be dispersed abroad and rivers of waters in the streets. Let them be only thine own and not strangers with thee. You don't want to disperse the water coming out from strangers. The waters here means a message, something that pertains to life. Let thy fountain be blessed and rejoice with the wife of thy youth. Why all of a sudden mentioning about wife? Because that is an indicator. It's like Bible is telling us, Yahuwah is telling us, hey, watch out how fast you're driving. Look at the speedometer. You understand? how you deal with the wife of your youth is looking at speedometer. It's an indicator. I testified for about 106 days. I had a not so fortunate event of working with fellow men about my age, a few years older, some are younger. And I didn't mind the physical work. In fact, I rejoice in physical activity. It's by the sweat of your brow, by working with your hands. But what I hated was these rude comments that they will make behind other women's back. Not a day goes by. Well, actually, let me correct that. Not an hour goes by unless they make that kind of comment. And they all have their respective quote-unquote girlfriend or significant others or whatever. None of them has a wife, by the way. Maybe that's a clue. I hated it. I don't want to look at some other woman and grade them, whether they are good looking or whatever. They're not pieces of meat to grade. And sad part is these are all so-called Christians. At least they were, I guess, honest. It's not coincidence that marriages break down. When you are speeding, you're going to override the limit of speedometer. You're going to break that thing. Verse 19 continues, let her, the wife of thy youth, let her be as the loving hind and pleasant roe. Let her breast satisfy thee at all times, and be thou ravished always with her love. Your wife should be more and more beautiful to you as you spend time with her. The longer you live, the more valuable she becomes. That's the way it's supposed to work. If you follow Yahuwah's instruction, that is, if you have a discretion and knowledge, that is, but not so with the ways of strange women. It becomes opposite. In the beginning, they say, oh, I love you too, blah, blah, blah. But after a few years, they go separate ways. Many people physically separate through divorce. But many others physically stay together, but they end up becoming total strangers. They neglect one another. They don't care about one another. And this is why men's eyes are shifting. And just in case you think this is only isolated to men, that's not the truth. Women do so differently. Women's attention shifts differently. They focus on things that is not building the marriage, not supporting their relationships. They go in shopping, right? They enjoy gathering with other girlfriends and taking activities that is independent of her husband. They love to kill time. Have fun. Verse 20 continues, and why wilt thou, my son, be ravished with a strange woman? We go full circle. Come back to that strange woman. So in the beginning, the strange woman was illustration for the ways of this world. Lack of discretion and lack of knowledge. But here, the strange woman is also being used as a physical illustration. Why would you look at other women when you are married? Even if you are not married, why are you looking at other women? Why? You must wait for Yahuwah's time, His way, to send you your godly wife, one who's supposed to be with you for eternity. Now, of course, that's if you are Yahuwah's child. If you're not, then all bets are off. It's not applicable to you. Verse 21, For the ways of man are before the eyes of Yahuwah, and he pondereth all his doings. Men do not know what they are doing. If they did, they will make corrections. They think they know what they are doing. And that proves that they don't know. Anyone who thinks that they are standing on their own, they don't know the fact that they are, in fact, buried, destroyed. Verse 22, His own iniquities shall take the wicked himself, and he shall be holden with the cords of his sins. This is the same cords that is mentioned, the threefold cords. The very cord that tightens the tent, that strengthens the tabernacle. The tabernacle being the house of Elohim, Yahuwah. And the threefold cord, Abrahamic covenant, Elohim of Abraham, Elohim of Isaac, Elohim of Jacob, is an illustration how we supposed to support each other. Keeping the tent tight, making the tabernacle strong. But instead of that righteous threefold cord, what are they holding with? He shall be holding with the cords of his sins. So you either have the righteous cord making you stand strong in Yahuwah as the temple, as the tabernacle of Yahuwah, or your cords of sin is wrapping you around and taking you down to hell. What's it gonna be? It's either one. You can't have both. Let me read verse 22 again. His own iniquities shall take the wicked himself, and he shall be holden with the cords of his sins. So when you break Yahuwah's cords, sin's gonna supply its own cord. This is why they cannot have both ways. None can have both ways. You either walk and live in Yahuwah's way, inside of Abrahamic covenant, or you go along with the ways of this strange woman and you wrap yourself in the cord of sin. And what happens to that person who wrapped themselves? He shall be holden with the cords of his sin. He shall die outside of instruction. And in the greatness of his folly, he shall go astray and never to be remembered ever again. I was reminding Mommy today while we are having this Day of Atonement. Just few of the things that we forget. In 2014, 4 years ago, about 400 young children about age of Joshua, 17, 16, died in that sinking vessel, Seward. We forgot. We don't think about it. In 2004, day after so-called Christmas, December 26, more than 260,000 people got killed in one moment when the tsunami in Indonesia wiped out the villages near the ocean. More than 250,000 people died in an instant. Less than few minutes. Many of their bodies were never recovered. In 2011, 7 years ago, in Fukushima, more than 20,000 people perished because of Japanese tsunami. It goes on and on and on. Never mind about smaller incidents. What about the case, those 4 ladies, 24 years old, little older than Rachel, coming back from their weekend vacation in the beach, right? Oceanside. Coming home, driving home towards Seoul, and this bus driver dozes up and plows right in behind them and killing them instantly. We don't remember these things because it hasn't happened to us. But here's the news for you. When it happens, it'll be too late for you. You wouldn't know what hit you because you had no discretion and you had no delight in Yahuwah's knowledge. Until your number comes up, you're not going to care. because you are under this false impression that these kind of events happen only to others. It never happened to us. Well, I bet you Mr. John Parks probably thought like that less than 2 weeks ago. He fell in his own house, the house where he lived for decades. His neck got broken. He couldn't call for help, even though his wife was sleeping right next to him. 2 days later, he was dead. Oh, but that is different. No, it's not. If you do not have Yahuwah's discretion and knowledge, you are no different than they are. And the proof is in the pudding. You don't think about these things. You don't. You're too busy pursuing your own pleasure. You don't think about it. You don't think these things are even possible. Mommy was shocked. What? 260,000 people? Yep, 260 followed by 3 zeros. Not 26,000, not 2,600. 260,000 people perished that day after Christmas. And it's gonna get worse. Worse, far worse. But people just don't think about it. It doesn't register to their consciousness. You see? Until someone like me tries to mention it. Then for 15 minutes you think about it. But then you go right back into your self-caused hallucination, thinking that everything is okay. No, it's not. In one night you could die. Your heart could stop. Your stomach could all knot up. You could have a blood clot. Yes. Just because you go to your sleep healthy tonight does not mean you're guaranteed that you're going to wake up tomorrow morning. But we don't think about those things. Unless what? Unless you give ear to wisdom and bow thine ear to Yahuwah's understanding. Then we do think about it. Yahuwah's people think about these things. We do know that, but by the grace and mercy of Yahuwah that we go. It's not because I am guaranteed of this life today. In other words, those 260,000 people that perished that day, they were not any worse than we are. They are not wicked people per se. They just happen to be there. If we are there, we'll be wiped out too. But we don't know this. We don't think about it. We have this day, today. And that's it. We're not given a guarantee of next day. None of us. And all these events happen to remind us to seek true wisdom and understanding. Regard discretion and keep knowledge. Don't be like these fools. One moment they are here, next moment they are gone. This is why verse 14 is applicable only to child of Yahuwah. I was almost in all evil in the midst of the congregation and assembly. People of this world, by the time they realize something is up, it's gone. They're destroyed. One moment they are here, well, next moment they are gone for eternity. Today is the Day of Atonement. What are you supposed to feel bad about? Yahuwah tells us to afflict our soul. What are we supposed to afflict our soul for? This ignorance. How many days have you lived without giving a second thought to your eternal well-being? You should be shocked to realize that you spend most of your days, most of your waking moment oblivious to all these things that are happening, that have happened to others. You don't think those things could ever happen to you. You're walking on a very thin ice. But fools don't think that ice is thin. They're trying to build a house on it and live there for eternity. Oh, this is my home. Please verify Yahuwah's wisdom, understanding, discretion, and knowledge. Don't be like this strange woman who's busy following the trend and fashion, whatever the latest flavor of the month is. They're busy setting up what they like doing, thinking that their body and their carnal natures, their flesh is going to hold up forever. No, it's not. You got today. Oh, I'm only 50 years old, so I'm going to have likely many decades of good health. That's what you think. Those 400 high school students who perished that morning, even until the moment that they were doomed, you know what they were doing? They were joking, sending out text messages to one another. Oh, I'm afraid. Ship's really dead, killed over. Hey, are we gonna die? Hey, they used to make jokes about things like that. None of them came out. That was the day that they died. The death was sealed. But everyone who came out from that doomed ship, just outside the cabin, they all got rescued. You remain in the ways of this world. You stay in her and come close to the door of her house. You're going to be destroyed. Bible tells you to remove your way, thy way far from her, and come not nigh the door of her house. The strange woman thinks that she's going to be going on forever and ever. Child of Yahuwah knows that we are here for temporary. I'm given this day, today. When I fall asleep tonight, that's it. All bets are off. I don't need to worry about what tomorrow might happen, because I don't even know whether I'm going to be around tomorrow. The evil of each day is sufficient for that day. Which means we all have to be mindful of, if you're a child of Yahuwah, we all must be mindful of the fact that this is it. This could be it. So you don't go and, oh my, all those people died. They didn't even have a chance to say goodbye. They didn't even have a chance to put their lives in order. None of us do. If you forget this, then it is a proof that you are walking in the ways of the strange woman. Strange woman doesn't care. That's why they are busy wondering what kind of, how wide the tie that they should get. Whether to buy that, shirt with the ladies' shirt with the shoulder cut out. Do you understand? They are busy looking for the bag with the wheels to pull. Do you understand that? If you knew that your life could be over tonight, would you care about things like that? You wouldn't. You wouldn't care about those flops, those fads, those things that people think is important. Again, there is no other choice. You either belong to the strange woman or you belong to wisdom and discretion of Yahuwah. There is no in between. Because it's mutually exclusive. You are either in the doomed ship and die, or you get out, just go on the deck. Most of the people who got on the deck, they didn't even get wet. You understand? And live. There is nothing in between. What is between life and death? What is between wrong and right? What? You're either wrong or right, right? You're either alive or dead. Unfortunately, for billions of people who call themselves Christians, they think they are in somewhere in twilight, somewhere in between. And Bible talks about that too. How long are you going to be back and forth in the middle? If Yahuwah is your Elohim, go and worship Yahuwah. But if Balaam is your God, go. Why are you vacillating back and forth in the middle? Remember this. Bible is not going to be understood by people of this world. Yes, Bible is the #1 selling book in the history of mankind. More Bibles are published than any other paper books, ever. But that doesn't mean it is understood by people who read it. I hope and pray that my children and our children and anybody who freely, by the leading of the Spirit of Yahushua, wish to start something like this for your own family, I hope and pray that you guys have a hearing ear to hear. And you better check whether you do have a hearing ear to hear or not. Don't assume. It is just too dangerous to leave it up to the assumption, because you may never get another chance tomorrow. This might be it. Let us pray. Father Yahuwah, we thank thee again for thy loving kindness and thy truth. Help us to walk in thy Son Yahushua's way. Let us keep thy wisdom and knowledge in our lips and regard thy discretion. Let us have hearing ear to bow our ear unto thy understanding. And let us attend unto thy wisdom, Father, to keep away from the ways of the strange woman, to remove our way far from her, and come not nigh the door of her house, thinking that we're going to have day after day, week after week, month after month to live on and on. We don't have that assurance. We have today. We are given this day. Let us remember all those people who have met their destructive end. Unforeseen, unfortunate event. They were no worse off than we were. They were no worse or better than we are. Time and chance happened to them all. Happened to them all. Father, help us to remember our number of days, that we may bear much righteousness, much truth in form of thy fruit, Father. Help us to stand on thy righteousness, obey thy commandments, be unto thee blessing, and bring thee praise of worship in righteousness and truth. To forsake the ways of this world, the strange woman who flattereth with her lips. We do not want to look at other women. We need to focus on our inheritance, the eternal inheritance. Grant us thy presence, that we may continue to listen to the leading, guiding, of Yahushua HaMashiach, our Good Shepherd. Forgive us of all that is unrighteous and wrong in Thy sight, Father. Cover us by Thy Son Yahushua's blood and wash us clean by Thy word, that we may forgive one another, each other, and wash each other's feet, as we encourage one another to be corrected by Thy word. In Yahushua's name we pray. Amen.
Amen.